Business ownership is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
It is absolutely not. You have to be strong. You have to be willing to pivot. You have to be willing to not take criticism personally.
Yeah.
To be willing to take it constructively and turn it into a positive. And if someone isn't your cup of tea, that's okay. There's other business out there.
What does it mean to plant your flag? It means you're not afraid.
It means you're passionate about what you do.
It means you're here to serve others.
In business, in life.
In good and bad.
You aren't afraid to fly your colors proudly because you know
you serve a greater purpose. This is the Plant Your Flag podcast with Mike Bean
and Jeremy Mountain.
Hey everybody. Thanks for joining us once again for another episode of the Plant Your Flag podcast with Bean Media Productions. I'm Mike Bean. I'm joined here today by Lindsay Giardina, and she's from Prestige Administrative Consulting. I met you because your primary focus is bookkeeping, but you have several other things that you do to help workflow, process efficiency. There's other aspects that you help with maximizing business ownership. I want to give it the stage to you at this point to just do a better job than I just did.
Sure. Yeah. So it's maximizing the time of a business owner. There's so much that is on the plate of us as a business owner that you don't need to do it all. Like, you have an area that you excel at, and spend your time in that area that you excel at, and it's okay to rely on professionals for those other areas.
Because I think there's a lot of people who have that kind of plant your flag mentality.
Right. You either have it or you don't.
They can do it all. And you help them kind of fill in some of those spaces that maybe they need some help after they finally realize it.
Right.
But what was it that, where was that moment that you decided that you wanted to plant your flag?
I actually didn't have it until I was told. So I was at a job for 8.5 years, and when I was leaving there, my manager said to me, you'd be a great business owner. And I was sort of baffled by that, thinking I couldn't be a business owner because I didn't have a specific, skill that could be sold or a product. It just had never occurred to me that I could be a business owner without having a specific skill or product. But from that point, I began researching and looking into it, went to another job that I was at for 1.5 years, and in my time there all my spare time was researching what I could do, and came across this concept called administrative consultants, which was essentially like an executive assistant for small businesses on contract basis. So they, small businesses generally can't afford an executive assistant, but to be able to have that level of service for the smaller businesses. And then as I started, when I would sit down with potential clients, I would be like, okay, well, these are all the things I'm capable of doing. I have, a background in, manufacturing and value stream improvement and process improvement and sales and accounting. And what's the easiest piece to remove from your plate? What's the thing that weighs you down the most?
Right.
That's urgent, that has to get done, that's going to be the easiest place to start. And the answer every single time was bookkeeping.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a daunting task. And how do you, cut through it every day with all the different? Is it interesting that way?
It is. I see it sort of like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing projects that involve back years worth of work, and there's not always as much data. It's sort of like putting everything together, tracking down that loan and that that other credit card, and making all the. It looks like it's like a puzzle. You got to make everything fit together and make it all make sense and balance out and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting because I sometimes, when I'm a little stressed out, I go to QuickBooks because the numbers kind of bring my brain to a different side,
focus.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I get that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's a lot of nuances that go into it. I would imagine that there's a lot of factors beyond, what got you to here today.
Sure.
What are some of the things that kind of led you to just kind of taking that lead?
So I started my career in retail. I went through like a management training program at the Bonton,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in retail for
Which Bonton?
at McKinley.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then I
Yeah.
moved, and
I
then
grew up in
once,
Hamburg, so yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah, I was at
familiar.
McKinley for
Yeah.
several years, and then went into management, and then
Mm-hmm.
at that point they moved you to went to all different locations. I was at Northtown Plaza, I was at Southgate Plaza, and I was in retail for about 6 or 7 years, and then just decided that I hated retail. You never have weekends, never have
Mm-hmm.
flexibility. I wanted to use my brain more than the physical aspect of work. So at that point, I like completely shifted gears. And decided I wanted an office job and started at a company that was a distributor manufacturer, and I ended up being there for 8.5 years. Started in shipping and moved around into sales, and was in several different positions in my time there. But I became the expert on their software that they use. They use a fancy ERP program, and I knew many of the different positions. I was able to fill in when people would be on vacations or when people would quit unexpectedly. It's a fairly small company, about 20, 25 employees. So, I was sort of the person that knew every job and could fill in all the gaps. And they were in sort of automotive industry in 2008. So I was able to get some all the employees assisted the owner through that period with some strategic planning and things that employees don't normally get the experience to do. Profit improvement and all that sort of stuff. Value stream mapping. We did a full value stream map there. And then when I left there, when I was let go from there, they said to me, "Oh, you'd be a great business owner." And I sort of, just didn't, it didn't compute.
Right.
And that was when I started at another company and did all that research. And then while I was at that other company, I had thyroid cancer was discovered.
Oh, wow.
So that was 2015, and I had my thyroid removed, and I've been cancer-free since.
That's great.
But I did start
sorry
me.
that
Thank
you
you.
had to go through that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you've been
Yeah,
clear since.
that was actually the start of a very long medical struggle. The thyroid cancer, removing of my thyroid for me was the start of many other problems that developed. I was hospitalized for anemia at one point, developed diabetes, weight gain, all the things. It's been a long road. And then I was laid off from that company. So in a matter of 2 years, I was let go from 2 positions.
While going through all of
It was
that.
I was already it was 2016 at that point.
Yeah.
So the 2015 the cancer stuff was settled, but I was starting to have the issues, and a lot of the issues went undiagnosed for many years. It's only the last 2 to 3 years that they've really started to resolve for me. But when I was let go from there, I was like, you know what? I've already got this concept of administrative consultants. I've already got the name. I already know what I want to do. I've been laid off twice in 2 years, for decisions that I have no control over. I'm just going to, and it was like days later that I went and filed my DBA downtown.
I don't blame you for having that kind of fighting mentality of I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Because you already gone through probably the worst that anybody can imagine. So
Yeah.
I give you a ton of credit, but
It's challenging for sure.
does track.
Yeah.
In that you are a fighter, and I'm glad that you're fighting for so many companies around this area, and I'm glad that you were able to challenge, beat that challenge.
Yeah.
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 So, and I know that can be a challenge to talk about as well. I'm saying challenge a lot.
Life is not easy for a business owner, and it just gets worse when you decide to start your business. But
yeah,
it's either for you or it's not.
There are a lot of challenges that go into everyday business ownership, and some of the things that we like to talk about are some of the things that somebody should anticipate when they go into business. Because it can be a scary leap, and it's a leap some people don't take that maybe they should,
Yeah.
or maybe it's a leap that they shouldn't.
Right.
What's your advice there?
I would say it's okay and expected to not make a profit in the first, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 3 years, and that's okay. You can have a plan for that. It may not be your case. It's not true in every case, but it's fairly common to not be profitable in your early years.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and that's okay.
And I would imagine you see that. Obviously, you've experienced it, but you see that multiple times
Yeah.
throughout probably
Right.
a lot of companies that you work with.
Yeah, I mean, if you can adjust to whatever's happening, you can start a business with a concept, with an idea, with a product that you think is going to go one way, and if you can pivot and learn to stop and identify and pivot, find the new direction, find the change, that's where you can be successful. Is you know what? Like I started that I'm going to do all of these things. I'm going to do this huge list of things, and all of it. I'll do all of it. And that's what I was going to do. And it turned into what they needed was bookkeeping. And that's okay. I knew that. I'd become very good at it. And, I had the background.
Right. And pivot is something that's come up a few times as we've been talking. And I think that's really, really important, is because if you're too laser focused on one thing, you may end up going down the wrong
Right.
path.
Yeah.
Have you seen any companies who were too
Yeah.
stubborn to pivot?
I did. I do. I did have one client for a period of time that had a great idea, a shop, and invested a lot of money into making the shop what they wanted it to be. And it was a great concept. They had a great location. It was a great idea. But when it wasn't profitable within the first few months, the owner got disheartened and then ended up walking away from the business because it wasn't profitable. I don't know, maybe a year and a half.
He took his flag out.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and it just,
Yeah.
they had an idea that it was going to happen, and it was going to happen quickly because they put in all this money and they did all this stuff, and that's how it was going to work. And there's certain things that they didn't want to do. They didn't want to be open certain hours. They didn't want to, and
Stubbornness can be your worst enemy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but at the same time, it can come from something behind it. Like,
Right.
there may be a reason for it, and,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it might be because you have some values that pull you towards home more, or whatever it may
Right.
be. And like I said, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
But we're just hoping that we can shed some light on the whole experience, and give some kind of guidance in any kind of aspect. I would imagine throughout how many companies do you manage?
About 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the ability to have that many has grown over the years, and how I do it has changed, and figuring out how to grow and all of that, and what systems to use, and what AI to use, and do I use subcontractors? Do I become an employer? All those sorts of things.
Throughout those 20 companies, I would imagine there's got to be some crazy story or something that you've experienced.
The most unusual thing that you wouldn't expect to hear from a bookkeeper is estate bookkeeping. And
Estate bookkeeping?
yeah,
Okay.
so because on my personal side, I experienced some loss. My boyfriend that I lived with for 8 years passed away in 2018. And
You've been through the ringer.
yeah, and through that experience, and through my grandfather passing several years before that, and going through that estate stuff, I was familiar with how estate finances worked, and I came across a couple situations where a lawyer would need a bookkeeper for a variety of reasons. Either the heirs are in disagreement, and usually because there's a business involved, and sometimes it's the person that passed hadn't filed taxes in several years, and they had a business that's got to get in order, and nothing can be distributed until taxes get filed, and all that sort of stuff. And very often, the heirs had no idea that the business was in the state that it was, and it happens all the time. And the estate lawyers are left trying to figure it out, and the heirs have no idea how to do it. And it's sort of become, a thing that I can do that I've done several times now.
Yeah, I think at some point we're going to want to get a lawyer on here to talk a little bit about some of those things as well, because I've heard a lot of different stories in personal life about people who kind of acted too late. And it catches up with
There
you.
are lots of stories, definitely. I can make a suggestion later of an estate attorney that would probably be a good one, but
I think we may know the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the stories are crazy, and I've learned firsthand that you've got to have your documents in order, and and
It's
if
never
you
too
don't,
early.
this is what happens.
Yeah.
And I enjoy cleaning up the mess, but it's going to cost that estate.
Right.
So the effect of a business owner not keeping their things in order, not filing their returns when they need to, has led to
And
a nightmare for their family.
And New York State isn't easy.
It's not easy for business owners. It's not easy for it often feels like they're trying to make it as hard as it could possibly be for business owners.
I feel like it's kind of similar to that show on Nickelodeon when I was a kid, Guts or something like that, or Super Sloppy Double Dare, where you had to run through this gauntlet. It just seems like they always want to make it.
Business ownership is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
It is absolutely not. You have to be strong. You have to be willing to pivot. You have to be willing to not take criticism personally.
Yeah.
To be willing to take it constructively and turn it into a positive. And if someone isn't your cup of tea, that's okay. There's other business out there.
There's such a thing as bad business, right? And sometimes you just have to. Can you see it coming?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Not always.
But sometimes it's like I thought that.
I mean,
seemed like this was fishy.
There has definitely been clients that potential clients that I've sat down with and been like, nope, no, thank you.
Yeah. No, it's happened. And is it a good feeling to have to be able to do that?
Yeah, it definitely takes time to get there, to learn what those red flags are for you. And sometimes you learn from experience because you go through a thing and you learn, oh, hey, didn't know that I wasn't supposed to do this, and now I know for the future, and that sort of thing.
How do you, being a solo entrepreneur, how do you balance that work life?
Well, the great thing about bookkeeping is, and everything mostly being cloud-based, is that flexibility. I can do anything anytime. If I need to be with my foster child at 2:00 in the afternoon for 4 hours, that's fine. I can catch the work up later. I can work at any time because my clients aren't affected by what I'm doing. I have cloud remote access to everything. I can do everything. If I need to work 12 hours on a Saturday and 12 hours on a Sunday so that I can do something personal on a Monday, then that's what needs to happen.
I'm glad that you brought up the foster aspect, and I always feel guilty if I ever compare. Our director of marketing, Jeremy, he hosts every other podcast, and he just had his first child. He had his son on Halloween, and I never want to compare my experiences with the dogs and things because I don't have
Well,
children
I have fostered
a
dog.
So
I've fostered cats, and I have fostered children.
Wow. So yeah, that is wild. Do you want to talk about any of that? Right
Sure.
now?
Yeah. So fostering cats, I was a foster fail.
I have 3 foster fails at my house right now.
The first,
today is the day that we got our 3-year-old Ladybug.
Yeah. Nice.
So it was a year ago today. So
it was. We did it 2 summers in a row. The first summer it was a mother and her 3 kittens, and we decided to keep the 3 kittens. The mom went back to the rescue, and she ended up being sick, and she didn't she passed away shortly after that. She had like a stomach tumor or something. And then we did it again the next summer. We had this one. These ones didn't have a mother. It was just 4 kittens. And at that point, we already had the other 3 cats. So Mark was like, let's limit it to 1. So we kept 1 cat, and the other 3 got adopted.
There's always like a little bit of that
Yeah.
balance in the
Yeah.
household, right?
He's like, 4 is the limit. That's enough.
we set a limit and we broke it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so.
Yeah, no. And then how about the children? What organization do you work with?
I right now am with Hillside.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was with the county direct. It's also not for the faint of heart.
Right.
But I have the flexibility to be able to do that.
Right.
I built a business around having work-life balance and to be able to do the things that I want to do, because between the thyroid cancer and losing Mark and all of that, life is just too short, and I just don't have time for anything that isn't going to make me happy.
That's beautiful.
So I built this business that has all this flexibility and that I can get ahead of things when I'm anticipating a child coming into my home and, get ahead of the work and then have a good 2 to 3 weeks where nobody should need anything. There's usually not too many fires to put out in the bookkeeping world, assuming it's not March or April.
Right.
And it's the flexibility to adapt to the trauma. These are traumatized children. They
Yeah.
come with, not good situations, and they need your full attention.
It's got to be a challenge to say.
Yes,
I mean, it's bittersweet, right?
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Say like not goodbye, but
Right. Yeah.
My great uncle. He was kind of like a grandfather to me.
Yeah.
And he would always say goodbye for now.
Yeah.
And it's probably kind of like that, right?
Similar. Yeah. Yeah. I had a girl. The longest placement I had was for 14 months, from newborn till 14 months, and it was thought that I was going to be adopting her, and then her grandmother. She ended up going to live with her grandmother.
Oh, okay.
So, of course, happy for her that she gets to be with family, but
Yeah, I would love to really dig into that conversation with you more, because it is interesting. Because, like I said, I can relate to a certain extent. My mother, she had not really fostered, but kind of stepped in for a family that had triplets who just came over from Africa, and it was tough when they had to move away and like that kind of stuff. So I'm sure we can probably connect on that level.
Sure.
When it comes to like going back to that, when we said the work-life balance thing, there's also, like you said, you picked a spot. You called your shot and you said, this is what I want to do because of this. I sometimes, like I was saying earlier, I sometimes see holes in what other companies are doing, but we're only getting paid to be a market, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just a simple task.
Yeah.
And it's like, am I a business consultant? Am I a marketing company?
Yeah.
And do you ever find yourself grappling with that, where you see that there's opportunity that they're not taking? Kind of like when you were talking about that company who just decided to kind of give up.
Right. Yeah.
So where do you step in those situations?
When I can identify that there may be something, I will explain it to the owner, and they may understand what I'm saying. They may not. As not the business owner, all I can do is identify it. There are sometimes situations where I can help, like say it's an issue in managing inventory, or it's an issue managing cash flow, or it's an issue and there's a simple solution that can be suggested. I can help with those things, or I can suggest other professionals that I work with. Because I've been doing this and networking heavily for 8 years now. I don't know, more than that.
Right.
Since 2016, I have a network of professionals. So I'm not going to have all the answers. I wouldn't expect to have all the answers, but I absolutely have somebody I can call when I don't have the answer.
How important is that network to you?
It's huge, and me having clients that I'm in contact with the other professionals, the payroll person, the accountant, all the people that when something happens, there's a strange thing, and I ask the owner about it, and they give me the answer they think it is, and I know that the things don't add up. I can go to the other professionals involved and get the answers and get it resolved and go back to the owner and say, hey, this is what actually happened, and this is what's going to happen, and this is the problem. And otherwise, that they wouldn't have been aware of. They would have just, gone months and months and months, and something that might not have been figured out until March of next year.
Right. And I smiled because it feels so good, even if you're not doing it. But when you can say, "Hey, I know someone," you can trust that person.
Right.
Who do you trust when you paint yourself into a corner, or you've got a question, or whatever it might be?
It's professionally.
As far as advice, or when you're starting to have maybe some questions or some struggles, who do you turn to?
I try to turn to God first.
Yeah.
He has all the answers.
Yeah.
We're humans. We don't have them all.
Right.
And sometimes that means other professionals, and sometimes I can get guidance to, maybe I need to talk to some kind of lawyer. Maybe I need to talk to some kind of financial person. Maybe I need to talk to some sort of strategist.
Right.
Sometimes it's some sort of like a mastermind group with other small business owners. Sometimes it's a commiserating with, another small business owner, brainstorming with another small business owner. There are resources available that you can lean on as a small business owner that you can forget are there and can forget to lean on.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like your faith has kind of brought you through a lot of the trials and tribulations.
Oh, yeah. I was born again in 2023, and it's been like the changes that I've experienced in my health mostly, and it's also tied over into my business as well. Mm-hmm. It has just been solely thanks to that. All the glory to God, for sure.
No, that's excellent, and I'm glad that you found that, because I think everybody needs some kind of nucleus, something to gravitate towards.
Totally.
So I do commend the fact that you have that, and it guides you towards where you need to be going,
Sure.
and it seems like it's working.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's it's been a huge support.
Yeah, so you've gone through a lot, and you've come out on the other side, and it seems like you're doing really, really well. So I think that's awesome. Any other kind of thoughts or advice that you would like to give anybody who's maybe starting out right now?
When you're starting out, it's okay to ask for help. It's you don't need to do everything. And asking for help doesn't mean that you don't know how to do it, doesn't mean that you don't understand, it doesn't mean that you're going to lose the finger on that part of the business. It just means that your time is better spent in another area. All of us each have an area that we excel, an area of genius, zone of genius, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And that's where you should spend your time and money. That's where you're going to be most productive. That's where you're going to be happiest. And all those other things that fall outside of that zone, get help for.
Yeah, I think that's very well put as well, because it's sometimes very easy to think you can just get it done quicker yourself, but if you have resources at your fingertips, just reach out to them.
Right, and there are resources either within your professional networking, through the SBA, through SCORE, through the Women's Business Center. There are options that don't necessarily always cost money.
Right. And it came up in the last podcast when Jeremy hosted, and he was talking about just some of the resources that are online. And one of the comments I made on our own post was, I didn't realize that these things existed in 2006. Things are just at our fingertips today.
Yeah.
So I think that's great advice, to just reach out, but have some faith at the same time. Yeah. I think that's excellent.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to do before we close things up is let you have a couple of minutes just to kind of chat about some of the things that you do, again, in summary, and then also how someone can get in touch with you and what's your
Sure.
preferred way to reach out.
So when I tell people I do bookkeeping, generally, they
Yeah.
don't get what that means.
Yeah.
Even if they're a business owner, even more so if they're not a business owner. I
Right.
say bookkeeping, and they just
Try explaining
they
some
can't
digital
they,
marketing
they
to
can't
someone.
compute what that means.
Yeah.
You start saying AR, AP, and whatever, and they just sort of glaze over.
Yeah.
I get, my pastor still calls me about tax returns. I don't do tax returns. I do the prep for your tax returns.
Right.
So
You're not a CPA.
I'm not a CPA. I
Yeah.
don't do EGR filings. I don't do any of this, but I do all this prep work going up to that.
Right.
So that as a business owner, if you don't have those things done, you're probably going to your CPA or your accountant with a box of receipts or like a list on a spreadsheet or something that's completely unorganized. Oh, I've seen it.
Shoebox.
Believe me,
I
I've seen
started
it.
off with the shoebox method.
I've seen large boxes of receipts. I've
Yeah.
seen a lot. So your CPA is going to charge you a lot of money to spend the time going through those things. Or you can have a bookkeeper going through those things every month, and when it's time for your tax return, you're handing them 2 reports,
Right.
or you're giving them access to your QuickBooks, and everything's done.
Is that your
Things-
preferred platform?
QuickBooks, yeah, QuickBooks Online preferably.
Yeah.
And things are done throughout the year. If things are wonky throughout the year, you can catch that in more real time versus trying to go through it after the fact. So basically just understanding what bookkeeping means, and it basically just means tracking where the money's going and where the money's coming from, and making sure everything's balancing, making sure the accounts match the statements and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and we were saying that that's a good starting point,
Mm-hmm.
so you can understand their business
Right.
to maybe help in some other areas,
Yep.
because that's kind of the window to the soul of the business, is it
Right.
not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in a unique position as their bookkeeper to be able to make process suggestions based on my, the background, all the process improvement that I've had in my background, and seeing the things and like, did you realize that you were spending, these hundreds of dollars in this place that you probably don't need to be spending it? You could be
Right.
doing this other thing. You could be, any number of things that could be going differently. And it's either something I can help you, or it's something I can suggest another professional to help you with. It's just, there's so much that you can see as a bookkeeper.
Yeah, I like I said, it's the blood life,
Yeah.
it's a bloodline. It's the life of the business. How would you prefer someone gets in touch with you?
Either by email or call or text is fine too. I can be emailed at Lindsay, it's LINDSAY, at prestigeac, like administrative consultants, .com.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Lindsay. I really appreciate your time today. This was a true pleasure, and I want to
for
thank.
having me.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll continue conversations. But I want to thank everybody out there for checking in on another episode of Plant Your Flag. If you haven't already subscribed to the audio version. If you haven't subscribed or hit that little bell down there on YouTube, please do, because this way you won't miss another episode. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. Bye. Thanks again.
Thank you.
We're all good. Do you need any kind of a scene mark or whatever? Do you have a timer? Hey, everybody. This is Mike Bean here from Bean Media Productions. We've got another episode to show to you that is horribly done. Like this.
Okay.
And I left my notes out there.